Welcome, everyone. Excited to join you all for the 2024 CSA Direct Marketing Summit. My name is Katie Harvey. I'm the CSA Marketing and Outreach Program Manager for the Organic Association of Kentucky. We are a statewide nonprofit. We work to advance organic regenerative agriculture across the state. We're an organization for farmers, founded by farmers. And so I encourage you to check us out if you haven't been to our website. We've got lots of great resources there. And really excited to introduce our first speaker tonight. We have Erin, Hargrove, and Mikey Richardson with Boxcar Acres. They're based in Henry County, and they'll be talking about their full diet CSA. Take it away, guys.
Oh, thanks, Katie. We appreciate that. Thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here tonight. We are farmers first, so hopefully we can figure everything out technologically this evening. We are based in Henry County, as Katie said. We've been here since 2020. Before that, we started in Indiana, started solely as vegetables, but have since added layer hens and beef cattle. We are on 122 acres here, so we are kind of spread wide. Mikey and I are the main farmers. And yeah, we run a pretty niche, I guess you would say, CSA that we're going to talk about this evening, and hopefully inspire y'all to think about it with your own farm businesses, because it's been pretty successful and interesting for us to run. So we started, like I said, in 2018 with solely vegetables, and we started a traditional CSA model then. And we love a traditional CSA model. We still do it. We still offer that to our customers, and we have a pretty good cohort of people who still go that route. But we did find that a lot of our customers were really interested in some more customization, more products that they would be able to get locally besides just a curated box of vegetables from us. So we kind of fell into the full diet model. We moved into a farm for people who were moving out of farming, and they had we kind of inherited this this infant full diet model that they had begun, and took it from there. So we have since expanded and moved into that model and kind of grown it from kind of in early stages. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the full diet model expands on the traditional CSA model because it is a free choice model, and it is collaborative with other farms and basically aggregates products from many other farms so that customers can get more of what they need in a single place. And the idea is that it is more attractive to many different customers because there is a little bit for everybody, and you have the ability to pick things. And I think that the biggest issue with the traditional CSA model is that folks more and more these days really want to be able to pick the things that they want, and they don't want to have to eat the things that they don't like. So the goal of the full diet is to offer most of the groceries that a household would consume in a 2-week period. And the goal at the beginning of the CSA when we took it over was very much to incorporate absolutely as many different products as possible. And we have narrowed that a bit in the years since, but at the beginning it was, we obviously as many different seasonal vegetables or as fruits as we can offer, and we would average 20 to 30 different options, and you could get, as the quantity was up to you, as much as you wanted. And then we did beef and pork and chicken and turkey in ground and sausage and patty forms, as well as larger cuts and roasts. We had milk and bread and grains and bone broth and dairy products, yogurt, milk and cheese. And on Thanksgiving, we had turkeys, and at Christmas, we had hams. And we still do a lot of those things. But, you know, basically anything you can think of, we want to offer it if it is seasonally appropriate. And we started out, there were 5 different farms that were contributing all of that stuff because it was quite a bit of things. And we had 2 other value-added producers because we had somebody that we needed to do the value-added stuff and somebody to bake bread. And we were managing a dairy herd at the time. So we were contributing milk. And over the years, we realized that we had spread ourselves extremely thin because we were trying to do way too many things. And since then have narrowed in a little bit more on what we can handle producing and what customers actually want, as opposed to throwing everything at the wall and seeing what stuck. And now there are 3 major farms working in it with occasional contributions from other farmers and value-added folks. And
yeah. And obviously the point of this, of us talking, is not to just tell you about what we do, but to kind of try to talk to you about, I guess we kind of approach this as if we were going to start over tomorrow, how we would go about building this from the ground up. Because as Mikey said, like when we started working in this CSA model, we went big really fast and had a lot going on, and had to kind of whittle that down into something that was a little more manageable for us. So if we were to start again, we would maybe go a little differently. So hopefully we can kind of help you learn from our mistakes. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm sorry, we're not, like I said, we're Farmers First. So this is a very bare bones couple of slides with words on it, but hopefully they'll be helpful to you. So let's go ahead and do that. So in thinking about kind of where we would start, in terms of like a marketing perspective, especially, you know, obviously in order to have a successful CSA, you have to have customers. So before even like thinking about what farmers you would talk to, thinking more about the customers that you have and what they would want. We have tried some things along the way that have just not been that exciting to our customers, despite the fact that we thought, wow, this is going to be a slam dunk. People are going to be really into this and be really psyched. And then they just weren't, because maybe they get it from somebody else, or maybe they, you know, just, it's not a thing that like they consider part of their like diet, day to day. So the first thing is really thinking like a customer. Like if you were in the CSA, what would you want? So for us, we've kind of moved away a lot from value-added products because we found that, you know, not everybody is into pickles or sauerkraut, or a lot of the people who are in our CSA, they really want to just do that themselves anyway. They get all the ingredients to be able to make that at home. So we've kind of moved away from that and more into just ingredients. So all of the vegetables, all of the meats, and then you get to kind of make that at home. And so really thinking about it from that perspective of not just like, what do I want, but like, what do I think my customers would want? And for some people, you know, it's really important that things are organic, or it's really important that things are, that meats are prepared in ways that don't have added nitrates or, you know, preservatives or what have you. So just thinking about like who your current customers are and what they would want if they were to continue into this sort of model of CSA. And we just put ourselves out there a lot and ask our customers what they want. You know, if you could have anything in the world, what would it be? And we try to make it happen. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. But I think that another thing when we think about this is like, what else they buy locally. So if they come to the market to buy it from someone else, then they will buy it from you, as long as you connect all the dots for them, right? So like we do a lot of heavy advertising on, like, you're not just supporting our farm, but you're also supporting Valley Spirit, and you're also supporting Fall Family Riverside Farm, and you're also supporting On Tap Dairy. So like you're taking your dollars and spreading them out to many different farms. And people think that's really cool, and it's really easy for them because they, are like, wow, I don't have to do this work. I get to just pay money, and then I get the products that I want, and I get to make sure that I'm supporting, 4 farms instead of just one. And they think that's very cool. So really thinking about the ways that you can advertise that and the products that you can easily get that would make it more exciting for your customers. Anything else to add about that? I think I do this.
I think you got it covered.
Okay. So the other thing that we kind of thought about before approaching other farmers in marketing to other farmers is figuring out logistics. I think that in the conversations that we have had in bringing people into kind of the fold is making sure they understand that we have kind of our T's crossed and our I's dotted, and that we can go to them with kind of a fully fleshed out spiel of like what we're doing. So that includes things like our pricing model, having that figured out before we start approaching other farmers. Like, how are we going to afford this? It is really easy with this model to kind of get in over your head and overpromise, and not have necessarily the cash flow. And I guess what I mean by that is that, like, especially with free choice, offering like too many options, or being too robust in what you have to offer people, it's really sometimes difficult to make sure that you are not overspending as the kind of aggregator of the farmers. That might be confusing, so if it is, we can address it kind of in the Q&A. But it is, right now we charge based on your household size, and that is what we expect you to kind of spend within the month. And a lot of people get that and stay well within that budget, but there are people who get very excited and overspend. And so figuring out your pricing model and how you're going to like manage that budget and make sure that all of your everything balances out at the end of the month is really important. And like I said, I'm happy to talk more about that if there's questions. But the other thing that we do is everybody is paid retail prices for their products. And that is something that we value and find to be really important to us as farmers who also want to be paid retail prices for our products. It's not hard to find wholesale places, but it is hard to find places where you can sell your things that you feel like you're getting a good value for. So we value that. And that is something that we, would make sure that any farmer we were trying to work with understood that we were going to pay them retail. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, the other things of figuring out, like we've already kind of talked about this, but figuring out where your gaps are and what you want to, and what those gaps in your product offering, what those gaps are. But also making sure you put yourself first, which sounds maybe kind of selfish, but we are the aggregators of the CSA, so we do all of the behind the scenes work. We do all of the packing and delivering, and we are responsible for figuring all of the logistics out. So, it's important to make sure that we are getting what we need to pay our bills too. So making sure that you prioritize what you want to sell and that you can make that happen before you start reaching out to other people. What else? Framework for organization of the CSA is really important. I feel like we're kind of blowing through this, but again, if there's questions, we'll answer them. We have used the Google Suite in the past, Google Sheets and Docs and whatever, forms for aggregating orders and doing the overall bookkeeping of the CSA and all that. So that is definitely a usable product. We've used that for years. We've recently switched to an online platform that's a little more robust and will do a little more of the behind the scenes work for us. But figuring all of that out ahead of time is really important because things get hectic, especially in the middle of the growing season. We all know that. So trying to figure that out on the fly is really hard. So figuring out how you're going to aggregate the orders to make sure that all of the budget stuff is falling in line, all of that, in my opinion, should be kind of figured out before you start approaching other people. And then also a clear understanding of partner expectations. We have some really very involved partners, and then we have some other partners that all we do is kind of buy their product and move it for them. But figuring out who packs and delivers orders, how you're going to advertise to people, when payment to your partners needs to be due, and how you're going to get that payment to them, how they're going to communicate their availability of product to you. All of those things are things that you should kind of think through and figure out so that you can kind of clearly communicate those expectations to people that you may want to work with. Yeah. So anything to add there?
Yeah. I think that when we talk about pricing and knowing about our just in general logistics, I feel like this is partially informed by the way that we started out versus where we're moving. And at the beginning, we were working on a per household flat fee, and the driving force behind that was, you can order whatever you want in whatever quantities you want. And the math that we did gave us a number that was well, the majority of families should fall into this pricing. And a lot of this was based on, I want to say, Essex Farm's full diet model. And the way that things shook out was often that there 90% of people did an amazing job, and then there would be a few wild cards that we would then have to manage, and it just would kick everything out of whack, just because if we weren't paying really good attention during the summer, then we would end up at the end of the year without enough money to pay ourselves as much as we were supposed to. And as the aggregator, everybody else has to get paid before we do. And that extra admin time was taxing in July and August. And the way that was based was on a lot of the other full diet models that folks may or may not have researched or whatever are based on farm pickup only. And we were, which we didn't talk about in the intro, should have, we have hub drops in town, and we offer home delivery. At the time, we didn't even charge for home delivery, and now we do. We've learned some things, but we have moved to a more of a web store purchasing by the each model, where it's almost like an internet farmer's market, but you are obligated to pay a certain amount of money into the bank. And that is kind of we'll see how that goes, but we have high hopes for that because it takes a lot of the math off of your books and puts it onto is more clear for folks who are ordering and for you doing the calculations behind the scenes. Yeah. Oh, and just that if you know all of this stuff before you go and approach a farm about it, it is going to make them interested and excited and comforted that everything's going to go well because you've thought it all through and you have a really good plan, which has been a thing that we have struggled with at the outset.
Yeah. So kind of the the main event. And thinking about finding partners that you want to partner with through the CSA. Some of this we've touched on a little bit, but I'll kind of go through it. Some thoughts that we have had. Obviously, one of the most important things is finding farmers that provide product to your customers in a manner that you agree with. So I think I already said this, but like, is certified organic important to your customers? Is, grass-fed, grass-finished meat, additives to value-added products, making sure that you are aligning with their needs. We haven't run into too much trouble with this, but every once in a while, I feel like, especially sometimes with like value-added meats, we've had some pushback from our customers to say like, whoa, like this is, a little crazy. And so just really listening to that and thinking about that and making sure it aligns with your customer base so that they are getting what they want, and and you are continuing just kind of to build that trust between you and your customers. Proximity to your farm is important. A lot of times, and maybe this goes without saying, but volume sometimes of what you order can determine whether or not people will deliver to you. So really thinking about that before you go to wacky. Obviously, if you're doing things like frozen meat, you can store that, or honey, or those sorts of things. But especially with like fresh items, spreading yourself too thin can happen really quickly. We've been there. We've been, halfway to a farm that's 2 hours away and been like, oh no, why did we? This is a terrible idea. So really thinking, it's easy to try to meet everybody's wants, but making sure that you understand your limits. Explaining to something that we have found very helpful in finding partnerships is really communicating why this model is really advantageous to farmers. So, like I've already talked about, retail pricing is huge when you're thinking about where you sell your goods, and so being able to offer that to people is really a win. Another thing that we do with this model is go most of the year. So we usually we take a couple weeks in the summer to kind of reset the farm between summer and fall. And then we take a couple weeks around the holidays to be with our families. But otherwise, we kind of run this nonstop. And what that means is that our customers really like it, right? Because most of the people who are in the CSA really want to be eating locally as much as possible. So we're able to provide that for them. We grow all year anyway, so it's not any big deal for us to just continue to offer it. And it gives us guaranteed winter sales, which is huge for anybody who's gone to a farmer's market in the winter when it's below freezing and you cannot make anybody buy a turnip. It's really nice to just have that kind of reliable source of income in the winter. And that has been a huge sell for people to be involved with the CSA too, is that they also want that to get that kind of income in the winter, those sorts of guaranteed sales. Another, I think, important thing about finding partners for the CSA is being able, we are kind of already talked about this, but being able to kind of have your elevator pitch and have your ability to communicate your logistics to producers in sort of a succinct way. We like to do like kind of just bulleted lists of everything that we want to talk about. And that's kind of our model for figuring everything out and communicating that to people. But the more that you have prepared, because it's kind of, I mean, it's wacky, right? Like it sounds in some ways like too good to be true, where it's like, like I said, it's retail pricing. It's, on average, at least several $100s every week, if not more. and of just guaranteed income for you. And so just having all those logistics to be able to say, like, this is the way it all works, and this is the way that you can be involved, I think has been really helpful for us in communicating the CSA. And then kind of continuing to think about like marketing yourself to other farmers for this type of model. We've had great success at farmers markets. It's a great place to talk to people. Obviously, you get to connect face to face. It's also a great place to pick up product. So that's where we pick up our honey from a farmer that also is at the farmers market with us. So it's, super easy for us to provide that in the CSA. It requires, very minimal effort from us. Same thing with pasteurized milk. We can pick that up at the market from on tap, no problem, and be able to provide that in the CSA. So a lot of times just making those connections of saying, we've had other farmers who grow in the same way as we do at the market who are like, I have so many carrots, I can't get rid of them. Like, okay, we'll move them through the CSA, and we can. So, we have those sorts of direct connections with people through market that is really helpful for this sort of market. And what else? I think I've already talked about this, but asking customers who they shop from besides you so that you can get those sorts of ideas from them about who they like. We have some really trusted customers that have been in the CSA forever, who have been in CSAs in Louisville for forever, who have very specific thoughts on like where to get products, and they're super helpful. And so just, always asking other people what we should do. Yeah, we have used like the tools like Product Locator on Kentucky Proud website. We've used the Oak website, Find a Farm, to just find other people who are doing things that we are looking for. And just not being afraid to be like very specific about who you involve. Like we have one farmer who does strawberries for us every year, and we have one farmer who does lamb for us every year, and that's all they do for the CSA, and that's great. That's all they want to do, or that's all they do produce. But it kind of continues to build that story that you're continuing to help spread your customers' money to more farms. And we have yet to have anyone tell us that isn't great. People really like it to just say that, not only, it's not just your 3 tried and true farmers this week, or 4 really with on tap, but also, the strawberry guy and the lamb guy. So, your money is going to all of these different places and supporting all of these farms at the same time. And yeah, and I would say the last thing, if you are just starting out, it's a really good idea to find a backstop farm. And by a backstop farm, I mean that, there's some farms. We are relatively small. We cultivate about 3 acres of vegetables, and sometimes things don't grow the way that you want them to. And it's really helpful to have another farm that's more mid-size, that produces a lot of vegetables that you can kind of rely on and say, like, our broccoli didn't really produce this spring. Is there any way we could get, 50 pounds of broccoli this week or 100 pounds of broccoli this week? Those farms that are bigger than us, a lot of times they have way more than they can move anyway. They're happy to sell it to you. And, we still, tell people that it's from their farm. So it's, it's promoting their business as well. And kind of everybody wins. So don't be afraid to reach out to the bigger farms either, to say like, we need some fill in. We've even in the past, like not, had space to like grow sweet potatoes or a whole lot of potatoes, and just known that we would need to buy that in. And we just have asked bigger farms to kind of fill in those gaps, and that has worked super well. And again, we've never had any issues with that from customers or anything. So
usually a bigger farm is happy to help out and to sell things to you, but it is not so, like, your business is not so important to them that they would be sad when it goes away. And so it's really nice kind of as training wheels while you're getting going. And then, yeah.
Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to say that you can, I think that it is natural for people to, well, other farmers to be a little cautious when entering business relationships with new people, and don't be afraid to start small. And we, in general, try to have a very, we send out orders, and then all of our farms fill those orders bi-weekly, and we try not to buy anything in and then like hold it ourselves, just because our storage capacity is pretty limited where we're at right now. But sometimes a large wholesale purchase of like potatoes or whatever, to get you through the winter with the CSA is a pain, because you have to store all these potatoes. But then this farm, next year, they plan to sell you potatoes again, and then over the years they eventually can turn into a partner farm when they are more comfortable working with you. And yeah, sometimes things have to go slow, but we have never really had an issue approaching somebody and getting them on board if we wanted them, because I don't know, there are not very many downsides to this model, at least in our opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Do you want
to add and then we can do our conclusion without the page up?
Yeah, I think that's all of our slides. Yeah. I don't know how to unshare.
No, that's fine. I think that in conclusion,
thanks.
Our thinking is that first and foremost, in terms of trying to draw other farmers into working collaboratively with you, a good business plan and a good idea of what you are trying to accomplish is the best marketing tool. And building relationships with people is the best way to get like word of mouth and farmer to farmer communication will get you the best results in terms of finding the people that you're looking for. And farmers know farmers, and there is a network of people that exists in your community, I am sure. And you can find the guy that does pork if you can't find him on the internet, or he's not at your farmer's market. I'm sure that he's out there, and your neighbor knows him. And once you have a cohort of farmers that are working with you, if they are happy with your system, they will tell other farmers and onboard them, and you will have people approaching you about being involved. And customers will do the same. If they're happy with the program, then they will tell all their friends, and it will grow itself. But can't emphasize doing it slowly enough, because going for slow and steady as opposed to quick and unsteady is the best way, because you will overextend yourself, or you can. And if you at the end of the day are losing sales because you're working on aggregating, or you've split the pie in so many slices that yours is so thin, it can be self-defeating. And so making sure that it works out for you is super important as you bring all these people into the fold. And finding what you're passionate about growing and what other people are passionate about growing, and bringing that stuff together under an umbrella is the best way to make it successful and robust.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. I feel like we gave a lot of logistics, hopefully some tips. Hopefully we're not ending too early, but we have lots of time for questions of things we didn't cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, Erin and Mikey, thank you guys so much. I definitely have a few questions for you guys, and then just want to encourage anyone to drop other questions in the chat. And we'll give folks a second to drop those in. But just thought it would be helpful maybe to kind of do an overview a little bit of some of your intro if folks kind of jumped on a little bit later. You mentioned like early on that you're still doing your traditional like produce CSA and then your full diet CSA is in addition to that, and was just wondering, I have like a few questions about like a compare and contrast, but like the quick details about your full diet CSA. You mentioned that's mostly year round with like a couple breaks. Do you do the majority of your promotion for full diet at the same time as your produce CSA, or do those people sign up in kind of a different cadence? Can they sign up anytime, almost just rolling sign up for full diet?
Yeah, we do most of our promotion for both CSAs at the same time. So we have like an official start to the full diet, and it is the same day as the veggie CSA. So this year that's May 1st. But so we do have kind of a sign up period because we do have people who pay annually for the full diet. So I think we said this, that it's based on household size is kind of what we expect people to buy into the CSA. So some people do that annually for a slight discount. We usually, this year we're doing, if you pay annually, we're doing a $50 credit because we've moved to this online platform that's a little more, I don't know, you can choose. I'm trying to figure out how to describe that, but it's basically $50 extra to spend during the season if you pay full in advance. So we do have a kickoff at the same time as the veggie. So we do the promotion the same kind of time period leading up, but then people just, not everybody chooses to order during the winter. You know, the sexy vegetables are not there. It's, you know, turnips and potatoes and some greens, and a lot of people are like, I'll catch you in the spring. So we do kind of have people who roll off kind of after Thanksgiving when things start to slow down production wise. So we just kind of let people kind of float off as they want, and then with the kind of expectation that they'll join back in the spring. So yeah. And I guess that, well, that brings up a good point because people do pay for the year, but the year does end at the end of November. And then people pay monthly after that. So
Okay.
that's kind of wonky to describe. I don't know if that makes sense, but
in the
No, no.
past, things are in flux, sort of, but in the past we have had a very strict 20-week summer season and 20-week winter season, and that was in conjunction with this the household flat fee, and then rather than you could order as much as you want and there were no prices associated with anything, and that had its positives and negatives, and particularly in the winter time it was really hard for people to spend the amount of money that they were paying in. Sometimes it's like, you know, February when there's no vegetables hardly, and so working that out has led us to our current point. So I think that we're hammering it out eventually. Yeah, so that now winter is more pay for what you get as you get it, as opposed to like a CSA. That makes sense. But
yeah, that makes sense. And do you guys see some crossover? Like, do you have some of your vegetable CSA members that are just getting a traditional CSA? Do those folks cross over into full diet, or is there any flow in either direction? But
we have had people, there is flow in both directions. We've had some people who have done the full diet for years who decide that maybe they're not cooking as much as they thought they would be, and so a vegetable CSA makes more sense. And vice versa, people who are like, wow, I can get all of this stuff, all of this local food brought to my house, you know. So we've had people move from veggie to full diet and vice versa. And it's cool to be able to offer both CSAs because I do think that it helps kind of satisfy those who are the traditional CSA model who are like, I want some local food and I do want some like new things, but I don't like cook that much, or I don't want like a huge amount of food, you know, or it's just me, versus like somebody has a full house of people that they need to feed and they cook every night at home. So
I think that by and large, there is kind of a pipeline from farmers market customer to veggie CSA customer to full diet customer, as people come into the farmers market and start to get used to buying things locally and then want to commit to like a seasonal box. And then from there, it's like, well, it would be very cool if I didn't have to come to the farmers market on Saturday and like fight people to get pork sausage. What if it was waiting for me in a bag? And so there's that upward mobility pipeline thing.
Yeah. No, that's super helpful. And it's like you're kind of building, those customers kind of graduate through the different stages. And you kind of mentioned really getting a lot of feedback from your customers about like what you wanted to provide to them. Early on, you were providing a lot of product, you're like scaling that down, and definitely kind of reducing the number of value added items. I guess I was just curious, like, what other requests from your customers, like, were you surprised about? Do you have any learnings to share with like other farmers, or just kind of like ways or tips that you gathered that feedback? Was it mostly anecdotal? Was it like sending them an email and then they replied, or was it like a Google form, or just like maybe tips or tricks on like getting the feedback, and then any like lessons learned, like, or surprises, I guess, like when you talk with your customers?
Yeah, I think there have been some real wacky ones. Coffee and spring water, and we're like, those things are cool, but not a thing that we can really do. We, with our order forms, we send them bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks. We have at the bottom of the order form, like, is there anything that we aren't offering that you would like? And most of the time people don't have any suggestions. I mean, we are offering every vegetable that we grow, every vegetable that Valley Spirit has available, all of the meats, honey, bread, and a few other like items. So we don't get a whole lot of, I really want this. And I'm trying to think, there's some things that are just like hard to source in Kentucky, or at least where we are. Flour that is organic. You know, obviously we have like Weisenberger's that isn't too far down the road, but it's not organic. It's not, and I don't think the wheat is local. And so like kind of like parsing through those things where it's like this is a staple ingredient for most households, but it's really hard to find that. Butter is another thing that it's hard to meet sometimes it's hard to find products that meet our standards that we can offer. Fruit is kind of hard. You know, it's hard to find like organic apples in Kentucky. It's really, really hard. And so some things like that's like really where we hit a wall sometimes, is finding products that our customers want, because they're raised in the way that they want them to be raised. Yeah. We
also, in addition to offering that, is there anything you're not getting in the full diet form? We will approach specific customers that, well, everybody in our veggie CSA, we do surveys every year just to see how things went and if there was anything that they missed or wanted to see more. And we've gotten some good feedback from those. And that has really helped us kind of round out how we think about what should be included in a box. But I think that by and large, finding customers that you think are archetypal of what, like the kind of person that you want to be serving, and really like calling them on the phone and being like, what what are you getting from us that you like? What are you missing that you want? Because a lot of times people don't want to fill out a form, but if you approach them very directly and are like, please give me feedback, they will say what they have been sitting on. And that has been really helpful.
No, that's great. I mean, just kind of going to some of your best customers, right, and getting like their direct feedback, super helpful. And we have a question in the chat from Megan. If you're buying produce at retail costs from farmers, how much do your customers pay over retail, and how do you make that sell?
We initially were charging an admin fee, and we basically were taking a 10% cut of the initial fee that you paid in to be a part of the CSA when it was a flat household, and said that that is what we pay ourselves, and then everybody makes retail from there. So there was no price increase, and basically the money that we make from the full diet is based on the vegetables that we sell into the full diet, and that has largely remained the same. And I think that it is it's not necessarily an attempt to be a middleman and a processor, so much as it is an attempt to sell more of our own products by increasing the tent of customers that we have. If there are more people that are in the CSA and are in our sphere or whatever, then we do more business, and kind of the rising tide making all boats float thing.
Yeah, and we do have some producers who sell to us at wholesale by their own choice. We have, one of our partners like sells to us at wholesale because he is like, you guys do most of the work, and that seems fair to me. And so it's not out of the question that you could find somebody who will do wholesale too. And so like we do make a little bit of money off of his product, just because he chooses, we sell it at retail through the CSA. It's kind of confusing, but that's what we bill it as in the CSA kind of accounting. And so, we make a little bit off of that to pay ourselves for the work. But so it's not out of the question that you find somebody who doesn't necessarily want the, desire the retail price.
Right.
So, find those people.
Offering retail prices makes sure that people want to participate because there is no downside. And theoretically you get enough money because it's just creating an outlet for you. And if we didn't have the full diet, then it's not like we would have all of those customers as veggie CSA customers, or we would have all those customers as farmers market customers. The vast majority of them exist as full diet customers, period. And if it went away, they wouldn't migrate to another thing that we offer.
Yeah. It's a special kind of unique niche. And no, that's helpful to know. And and so most of the time you're not kind of passing along a higher cost. The customers are still paying those retail prices, right? And like the cost for you guys is taken out in a different way. Awesome. And let me know if anyone has another question, drop it into the chat. Mikey and Erin, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and sharing a lot more about your full diet CSA. I guess like any final thoughts? I think one of my questions was just like, I know you mentioned kind of, was there an original inspiration? Did you go to Essex Farms to to want to offer this model? Or I mean, I know you said kind of inherit like some of the farmers that were offering it, right? Kind of getting pulled in from
this. Yeah, we got pulled into it, kind of an already fledgling model. But yeah, I've not actually been to another farm that offers it. I've done a lot of research on other farms that do these models. And I think that, you know, the inspiration for us and for all of the full diet models that I have looked at is just trying to meet people where they are and make it as easy as possible to get local food. We try to focus our efforts of partners, and we should have talked about this a little bit, but we do try to focus our partners on Henry County. On tap is in Washington County, so a little bit south, but it's really important to us that, you know, we find ourselves in a really unique place, that there's a lot of young, new farmers around where we are, and we want to see everyone succeed. It's a really hard job that doesn't pay very much, and we find this model as a pretty successful way to kind of spread money to ourselves and the people that we want to see succeed in our community. So that's kind of our inspiration, and it seems to be going okay.
I also think that it started for us during the pandemic, and being able to offer people most of the things that they needed to eat for the week when we weren't really supposed to leave our homes or whatever it was an opportunity for people to come out to our farm and like be outside for a minute, and an opportunity for people to get food safely. And I think that it was really it was nice to be able to facilitate that, and it feels special and powerful to be able to create a kind of microcosm of I don't know, like health in the community. It was a very cool moment in a very fraught time, and so that was something that I think carries forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, communities and CSA, right? And I feel like you can really feel that in this model too. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
And